start. Just started the recording button. Welcome everyone, and this is Arrowhead webinar about the management toolkit that's actually matured by now. It has 3 separate tools, as it was in the invite: the Arrowhead Certificate Generator tool, the Arrowhead Web Framework Installer, and the renewed Arrowhead Management tool. And we go through detailed demonstration of these here, but anytime during the demonstration you feel like asking, please ask. The presenter today is Tamás Body from AITIA, one of the developers of these tools. So Tamás, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Welcome everyone. So today we are going to establish a fully working Arrowhead local cloud with our management toolchain or toolkit, as Pa mentioned. And this toolchain is targeting the goal of lowering the entry steps, and currently consists of 3 components: a certificate generator tool, an installer tool, and a management tool, for which the first versions are already released and can be downloaded. But I have to mention that on top of these, a configuration tool is also on our roadmap, where all the basics and advanced system configurations will be manageable in a user-friendly way.
Tamás, can you switch on your camera? Maybe it's it was on last time.
Okay.
Okay, it's better.
It's better. Okay, but today, as I mentioned, we are going to establish a Arrowhead Cloud with the mentioned 3 tool, which can be downloaded from our website. I hope my screen is visible for you with the AITIA site on it.
Yes.
Okay, so you can reach these tools under the Industrial IoT page, where you can find the Arrowhead tools, and here the tools are, where you can download from. We are supporting Windows, Linux, and Mac operation systems. And if you are using these tools and maybe run into a bug or misbehaving, I kindly ask you to report, or you have a variable feature request, you can report to us in our public GitHub repository by opening a new issue. So the tools are
to me.
Sorry.
Sorry, I was accidentally unmuted.
Okay, no problem.
Related to, sorry.
No problem. So these applications are free to use, but not open source. You can download from our website. I have already done the downloadings to save some time. And we can start now to establishing our local cloud. As you may know already, first we will need some Arrowhead compliant X509 certificate, which we will generate the certificate generator tool. It's already installed on my computer, and as you can see, this is a wizard kind application where you will be guided through step by step the generation process, and which is the most important. I think you will be continuously verified. Your inputs will be continuously, your adjustments, your settings will be continuously verified. So in this way, the misconfiguration of an Arrowhead local cloud can be significantly reduced, I think. So in the first step of the certificate generation process, you can choose from four scenarios. The first is a standalone master certificate. A standalone master certificate, when you have no master certificate, then with this option you will have a unique master certificate, and of course a unique cloud and system certificate. It won't be compatible for any other master level certificate, which is an Arrowhead kind certificate. But despite of these facts, it will be named as arrowhead.eu. I mean, the common name of the certificate will be the standard arrowhead.eu. But if you have a master certificate already, you can choose the second option, where you have to provide the existing master certificate. And from that certificate, you will be able to generate the cloud level certificate and the system level certificates. If you have already a working cloud, but you have to add another core system or another application system, you can choose the third option. And then you have to provide the cloud level certificate. And if you wish only add application systems to your local cloud and need certificates for that application, you can choose the fourth option. This time I'm going with the existing master certificate because I think this is the most common. And I have to provide now the certificate itself. I have already prepared it. I have to just, sorry. Okay, drag and drop. And I can already show an example about the verification for, let's say that accidentally I'm providing a wrong certificate. For example, I have another cloud for different purposes and accidentally I choose the orchestrator certificate and provide that one. I provide the correct password for it, of course, but during the verification, I will get an error that certificate is an invalid certificate because we have an unexpected certificate in the certificate file. But now I'm going to provide the right certificate, which is the master. The password is the same, and I am able to go forward only when the verification is succeed. So let's see whether or not we are going to succeed. And yes, so our master certificate is correct, is an Arrowhead compliant certificate. We can go for the next step, which is some generic settings, where first I have to provide the operator and the name of the desired cloud. So in this case, I will use the AITIA name as an operator, and the cloud name will be demo cloud, for example, and I can show again a verification example. So we have to follow the standard Arrowhead naming conventions, and if I'm not matching these requirements, I get an error and I get a explanation what is the problem with this cloud name. By default, in this second option, we have selected the service registry, the authorization, and the orchestration core systems. So these are the mandatory core system, but of course you can unselect and select anything other. This time I also want to have certificates for the gatekeeper, gateway, and the Hogbit configuration manager. And after I can go to the next settings, which is a default password. Why we call it default password? Because the password I provide here will be the final, the eventual password for the trustor, for the system administrator certificate, and these passwords will be set as a default password in the systems, but it will be editable in the next step. So you can override system by system this default password, but you cannot override the trustor and the system administrator certificate password. Now I use the same password as I used to, and the same is valid for the expiration date.
Here is Mario.
Okay.
Hey, can I ask a question? Yeah.
Sure.
Why is it necessary to select the necessary core systems? Can I use this certificate, which will be generated then only for the selected services, or from my perspective, a certificate is a certificate which you can use universally?
No. These certificates, the system level certificates, for example, the service registry, which will be generated in this session, will be only for a certificate for a service registry instance, so for a specific instance, for a system, for one system.
Okay, but I can use this certificate to be created then for those selected services here. Yeah?
Services have no unique certificates. Systems has certificates.
Ah, okay. Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
I have a question as well.
Okay.
So what about the application systems, which are not the core systems? So we need certificates for them as well.
We will get there on the second step.
Okay.
These are some generic settings, which will be, as I mentioned, in some cases final. Like, for example, the system administrator certificate has this password as a final password. But regarding the application systems, this will be overwritable in the next step. And we have some checkbox here also. So if I wish to generate a certificate for a management tool, this is the system administrator certificate, I can select it. Or if I need a trustor for the cloud, I can select it. It is good to have a separate public key file from the certificates, because it can be shared with the partners it can be shared with other partners, with other applications if it's necessary, because it's a public key. But it's not an obligation, of course. So if you do not need it, then you just unselect it. And the last option is to set the localhost as a default subject alternative name. We will get there, where I will explain what is the subject alternative name and why is it necessary. This time I will go with these settings and go to the next step, which is the system by system settings. Here I have all the core system which was selected on the previous step, as you can see. But if you would like to add, would like to generate certificates for application systems in this session, you can do it, of course. You can click on the Add button. You can provide a system name. This time I will go with a demo provider. And also I will go with a demo consumer. So this is the answer. There you can set application systems to being certificates to be generated for them, sorry. And all the basic settings what we have just made in the previous settings are settled here, system by system. I can change it or I can extend it, and I will extend it with another subject alternative name. The subject alternative name is a certificate extension, which is necessary for the hostname verification. So when a client turns to a server and wants to establish a secure connection with that server, then the client are able to verify these addresses, domain names, IP addresses that are appearing in the server's certificate. And if the actual address where the client sent its request is visible on the certificate, then the secure connection can be established. So this is why we need service alternative names. And the localhost and the other address you can see here is for the actual device where I am running these systems. But in the real life, it will be, of course, several devices where I would like to run my core system and application system. So I have to provide those IP4, IP6, or DNS names where these application systems or core systems will be available within my network. So, for example, if I would use this computer in a real network, I would check my real IP address and use as a subject alternative name that one. I cannot for the service registry, for the authorization, gatekeeper, gateway, bit, and application system. I can leave as it is for now. And of course, as I mentioned, the continuous validation is here again. If we are providing incorrect IP address, or we let it empty, or we have a correct address but with the wrong type, I get an error message, and I can go to the next step only when everything is okay with my settings. Okay. And of course, as I mentioned, you can change system by system the certificate password if it's necessary. And you can choose system by system whether or not you would like to generate a separate public key file or not. Okay, now I'm going to the next step, which will be the actual generation. I don't know, there is some question regarding the settings and adjustments, what I just made in the previous steps. If no, I can go forward with the generation itself. So first we need an output location. I have this demo folder for this webinar where I have a certificate folder, and I would like to have my certificates for this new cloud in this certificate folder. So I choose this one. I get a warning that the cloud-related certificates will be located in the demo-cloud.aitia folder, and files with the same name will be overwritten. So that means if you have certificates for a cloud already, but you would like to extend it with core systems and application system certificates, then you can use the same folder as you store the existing certificates. They won't be overwritten, only if the system names are the same, which should be not, of course. And by hitting the generate button, the generation process itself is starting, and it's everything going all right. Then we have a green light to go to the finish step, where it just overview, but where the certificates can be found. We can open the folder from here, and I can see that the demo cloud.aitia folder has been created, and all my certificates. These are authorization certificates. This is the cloud level certificates, the application system certificates, and the public key files also can be found in this folder. The trust or the SysOp, which I selected that I need. So with this 5-step, I already have the proper Arrowhead compliant certificates. And if I would like to create some certificates for another cloud, I can start over the process, or I can finish by exiting. And now here I have all the certificates which is needed for installing local cloud. I would like to ask that can we go to the installation process, or should we discuss some question regarding the certificates or the certificate generation process? Okay. If no, then let's go with the installer. We have two types of from the installer. One is an online version, and one is an offline version. The difference between them is that the online version will download all the necessary templates, executable files from the official Eclipse Arrowhead core Java Spring repository, and you can select in this version the Arrowhead version itself, which would like to install. But the offline version, we have one installer for one Arrowhead version, where the installer itself contains all the templates and the executable files for that specific Arrowhead version. So if you have a device which has no internet connection or not allowed to connect to the internet, then you can copy this installer on a pen drive, plug it, run it, and you will have the core systems installed there. So this is a portable program. There is no need for install the installer itself. You just have to run it once you download it. This time I will use the online version. And this is also a wizard kind application where the selected components of the Arrowhead framework could be installed. So as I mentioned, you can select the desired Arrowhead framework version. You can decide whether or not you will go with the secure or not secure cloud. Of course, now we are going to do a secure cloud. That's why we have the certificates. just created. And in this first page, you will get some hint about the prerequisites. So before you can install and use the Arrowhead framework, these third-party softwares must be installed on the actual device. So you will need the Java runtime environment, and you will need a MySQL database engine for properly install the Arrowhead cloud. What I forgot to mention that this installer is able to install the core system only the actual device. So we have currently no remote installation. You have to run the installer on the device where you would like to use the core systems. So let's start it. First, we have to verify that you have a proper Java version installed on the device. If you have not settled the path and environment variable for the Java bin folder, then you can select the right folder where the Java runtime environment is available. But if you have the path variable for that, as I have so, then you just hit the verify button, and if everything's checked successfully, then you will be able to go to the next step. So let's see it. Okay, I got the green light, so I have the proper Java version. And I have the currently available core systems for the 4.6 version, where I'm going to select the service registry, the authorization, the orchestrator, the gatekeeper, the gateway, and the whole bit configuration manager. As you can see, at this time we have every properties settled in the right way. The settings are verified. You will see some hint how much storage space will be required for these core systems, what amount of RAM is required for running these core systems. But if you would like to make some advanced settings, you can open line by line, system by system, and you will have some more properties to adjust. But first, I would like to show the verification again. So, for example, if you did not provide the domain name or the IP address, you will get an error and won't be able to go forward. Also, if you are using, for example, the localhost as a domain name, which means that this device, this service registry, which is actually a web server, will be available only within this device. Then you can do it. You can do it, of course. You can do it for testing purposes, but you will get a warning that this kind of self-addressing address cannot be. So the IP packets from these self-addressing addresses cannot be directed from one device to another. So I'm going to use the right IP address. And if you wish, you can generate a start script for the system. And if you choose to generate this start script, you can limit the memory what the Java will allocate for this core system. But of course, you can set to no limit, and Java will use as much memory as it is available, and will manage the different Java programs memory usage. But if you would like, you can limit those of course. If you wish, you can generate a stop script in order to stop the web services, the core systems in a proper way. And if you would like, you can start the system automatically right after the installation process. So I'm going to start the service registry, authorization, orchestrator. I'm going to start the gatekeeper, and I'm not going to start the gateway. And let's see a bit, let's take a look to the settings possibilities regarding the Hogbit configuration. So these advanced settings, the default values are different system by systems. For example, Hogbit configuration management by default can the start system possibility is not selected because Hogbit configuration needs some external Hogbit software to configure. So if you have this external Hogbit software up and running, then of course you can select to start it, but anyway, you get a warning about it. Now I have all the systems selected and all the settings settled. I don't know whether we have a question at this point or we can go forward. Okay. And the next step is verifying the database and the database connection. So my database engine is running on localhost this time, and I have to provide a user which has right to connect the database, to create schema, to create table, to create users, because we have different users for different core systems. We have to grant permissions, revoke permissions, delete users, delete tables, and so on. So I provide the installer with my root user and with the root password. And I can choose a custom database name if I would like. So now I use code. So this will be the name of the database, and if it's not exist, it will be created during the installation process. But if it already exists, we would get a warning message that a database with the same name is already exists, so the creation script, the database creation script, won't be executed. So we expect that you already have it. For example, this is the situation where you have already a running cloud, but you would like to add a new core system to it. Now I provide every detail, so I'm going to verify. So I was able to connect to the database. My database version is sufficient, and I have all the rights and permission which is needed. Okay. In the next step, if we are in a secure installation session, and which are, then we have to provide the certificates for the selected systems, and we also get a hint that if you have not generate so if you have no certificates yet for the core systems, you can use our certificate generation tool, and there is a link where you can download it. But now we have already done it, and our expectation that all the P12 certificates are placed into a selected folder, and the file names have to match to the system or cloud name. The trust store file have to named as trust store. So this is the way how our certificate generation tool create and store our certificates. So I have to just look for the demo cloud.aitia folder, select it, and I will get a feedback right after the selection. So what we can see that these are the core system which were selected. The installer has found certificates for all the system. So certificates are available. Now I have to provide the passwords for the certificates. And in the real life, you would have different passwords system by system. But now in a test session, we are using default password, and I have the possibility to provide my password at once and apply it, and all the core systems certificate will be verified with this password. So now I will be able to verify, and only when the certificates are verified, I will be able to go to the installation process itself. So let's see. The verification has been done. The installer recognized that our cloud is the demo cloud.aitia. All the certificates was readable, and all the certificates was Arrowhead compliant. There are several stuff that our installer is checking during this verification in order to make sure that it is a Arrowhead compliant certificate. So we can go to the next step, which is an overview. By this time, nothing has happened on the device. The installer did not download anything. It will be download and install only after this overview, where I can see that which is the common name of the cloud, how many storage place will be necessary, and how much memory will be used when running these core systems. In this course, we can see our selected systems. These cars are not editable for now, but we have some overview information that, for example, the service registry script. So start script for the service registry will be generated. Stop script will be generated for the service registry. The system memory allocation is limited, and the system will be started right after the installation process. We did not select the start possibility, the automatic start possibility for the gateway. So as you can see in this feedback card, there is a not active icon for that option, and we have a warning for the Hogbit configuration manager that an external Hogbit software might be established before you can start the Hogbit configuration manager core system. This time I just want to show these feedbacks. So now I'm going to remove Hogbit configuration manager. And the last option, if I wish, I can install also an uninstaller application. With this uninstaller application, I will be able to remove the entire local cloud instance from this device with a few clicks. Okay. In the next step, the download is going to start, and I can see some logs during the process. If everything's goes all right, we can just see that the system by system download is done. We have some config files which should be also downloaded. We can abort it, of course, and if we choose to abort and exit, all the downloads will be removed from the device, of course. Okay. And okay, so the files have been downloaded successfully. I'm able to go to the next step, which is the installing itself. I have to choose an output location where I would like to store my executable files, my config files for the system. So I choose my cloud folder and hit the install button. And let's see what's going to happen. Now the installer is creating the database. This is my MySQL workbench. And you can see that I have the demo test cloud database here. But meanwhile, the installer is quite fast and already finished with the database and start the service registry. And the service registry system is starting. Meanwhile, I'm going to check that the database has been created. Yes, here we have the test cloud database. Sorry, not the test cloud, the demo cloud. All the tables and hopefully all the permissions and rights. Meanwhile, the authorization core system is up to running. And you can see the installer logging the task what have been done. And we are waiting for the orchestrator and the gatekeeper to being started. Meanwhile, if you have some questions, then please feel free to ask. It takes a bit time, but now I have the service registry up and running in a secure mode. Also the authorization. The orchestration. And the gatekeeper is about to run, about to start. Okay. And the installation process is finished successfully. On the last page, you can see some details about the installations, where you can find your config and executable files. You can open the folder from here. You can check the credential what have been used for creating the database. For example, for the service registry, the database user is this one, the password is this one, the certificate alias, and the certificate passwords. Of course, these credentials are automatically saved. You can find it on the cloud folder. And if you have another core system installed later on, this file will be updated with the credential of those core system. Okay. And the following systems have been installed successfully. And we are finished. So this time at this point we have Arrowhead local cloud up and running. Do you have questions before we start with the management tools? Okay, it seems everything is clear. So I can start with the management tool. So this is a second generation management tool. It's not a browser-based, but a desktop-based application. We are using the Firebase from Google for maintaining the user accounts and for the user logins. We are storing there only the session key and the information needed for the verification, and we are storing nothing about your cloud, which will be managed from the tool. If anyone would like to use another more industrial related user maintained solution, then we are open to discuss, but this version supports only the Firebase authentication. So at first time, when you start the management tool and you create your user account, this cloud wizard will pop up. You will have to provide the cloud details for the management tool, the entrance point itself. So we are going to add the secure cloud, which is available on our IP address, the correct port, and what we need is the system operator certificate. Luckily, we have generated with our certificate generator tool. So I need the demo cloud and look for the sysop. I have to provide the password. It's okay. And I have to test the connection with the service registry. And everything is, and if everything goes well, then I am able to go to the next step, where I can see that in this cloud instance, I have the service registry, the authorization, and the orchestrator and the gatekeeper up and running. I have no other core system registered into this local cloud instance, and all the other core systems which would be available are simply not deployed. And in the finish, you can give a friendly cloud name for your cloud. If it is not an obligation, if you are not providing a friendly name, then the cloud certificate common name will be used. But now I'm going to use the cloud as a friendly name, and I'm going to finish the cloud configuration. And I hope that everything will be fine, and my landing page will be the dashboard. Before we go in details with the different pages, I would like to show that we have the system menu on the left side with the various possibilities, with the various management task you can do, and we have a, let's say, a profile menu where you can add another cloud, remove an existent cloud from the management tool, of course, and not from the device, and where you can log out, exit the program, check some information about the program, some settings for your account. You can have a friendly display name. You can reset your password, delete your account, change your color mode. For it's good for the night shifters, and I also prefer this dark mode. So what we are seeing in the dashboard, all the core systems which are registered into the local cloud. The first three are always the mandatory ones, and the others are the supporting core systems. When you are on the dashboard, then this management tool is continuously calling the echo service of the core systems and give you a feedback whether or not it is available and the latency of and what was the latency of the actual request. Also, you have some overview about the application systems, but this time we have no application systems at all in this local cloud. So we have to provide some. Of course, if we have such an application system and, for example, a service provider who are able to register itself automatically at the time of its start, then it will appear here. But if you, let's say, would like to prepare in advance and adjust everything in advance, then you can do it, and we will do it. First, we check the service definitions, what is available in this cloud. Of course, only the core system service definitions are appearing here. At first, we are always fetch the first 10 record, but if you see, if you would like to see everything, then you just hit the more and you will all the service definition here. This is an overview line about all the service definition. You can edit it. Actually, only the service definition name, which is editable in this Arrowhead version. You can delete it, and you can have some details about the service, namely that how many service instances are provided currently within the cloud. So the service register is only provided, of course, by the service registry on this system address on that port. The security mode is certificate, and the service version is also visible, and you can check every service definition if you would like, and you can create new service definitions. Of course, this time I'm going to create the demo service, and here we have our just created service definition. Of course, we can check the systems. This time we have only the core systems are registered and available in the local cloud. I can edit it, of course, I can delete it, but I can also check some useful informations about the system, namely that the system has the record ID, what kind of metadata they have, if they have any, and which is the out info, which is the public key itself, actually. Okay. And of course, I can create a new system. For example, I can create the demo consumer system with the system address localhost, the system.
Sorry, you
Yes.
mistyped the name.
Oh, thank you. Demo consumer. Okay. It is not an obligation, but you can provide the authentication of info, which is the public key itself. You can manually read it from the certificate and copy paste from the certificate to here, or you can load the certificate itself. For example, I need the certificate in the demo cloud from the demo consumer. I have to provide the password for it. And if I hit the read file, the public key will be read from the certificate file. If there is some metadata which I would like to provide, then I hit the add button under the system metadata, and I can add any kind of metadata. By hitting the register, it will be registered into the local cloud. And here we have the system entry with the ID, with the metadata, that you can see, and also the authentication information, which is the public key. Okay. We can check the actual service instances, of course. So there is a service register, for example. We have seen it in the service definition, but now we are going to see the instances of these are the systems which are providing the actual service. And again, we have line by line the service instances, and we have an overview about the definition, the version, the system name, which is providing where which IP address, on which IP address it is provided, what is the security mode, which is the expiration date. I can delete it and I can see some details again, of course. For example, this service instance, we have a record ID and we have the URI where the service register is provided, and we have no metadata. The service definition details show us the service definition ID and which interfaces are supported by this service instance. This is the HTTP secure JSON with the interface ID, which is 1, and the system details, of course, the ID, the port, metadata, and the public key. And you can see all the service instance by hitting the More button. You can filter, you can look for services, for example, which contains the system, and you are able to filter for it. And of course, you are able to create new service instances. And by creating service instances, you can create the system itself. So you do not need to create the provider service under the system page before you would create the service instance itself. You can do it together. So now I'm going to create the service provider, which is the demo provider running on localhost. Actually not running, but it could be. And whatever system port, the authentication info, you can select again. And this time I will select the separate public key file, which contains only the public key. So let's say that I get it from another people. I have to provide password. Okay. And I have the authentication info. I can set metadata, of course, if it's necessary. And I'm ready with the system. Next is the service itself. So this system will provide the demo service on the URI. Has certificate or token, let's go with certificate, security level, and version 1. I have to choose some interface. Let's choose the HTTP secure JSON. Of course, you can create a new interface name. You are always verified, so you have to follow the naming requirements. But this time we will use only the HTTP secure JSON. And if I would like to, then I can settle some end of validity. Let's say that it will be tomorrow, 12 o'clock. And the metadata, which is the service instance metadata, can be provided here again. If everything is filled correctly, then by hitting the register button, I have the demo service instance registered. So once my provider would be started, then it would see that I'm already registered. So, and I have, it's not necessary to perform the register process automatically because it was done manually by the system operator. I can see some details about the service instance ID, the URI, metadata, and so on. I can check, of course, the existing interface names, can create a new one separately from the service instance if it is necessary, if I would like to do it. I can edit it, of course. I can filter it, of course, only for the secure, for example. Oops. Yeah, insecure also contains the secure. Okay. What I would like to mention also that we have a separate page for checking the core system log entries. So the core systems are logging into the database also, and we can query the database for these log entries, where you can check it. If you have some strange behavior, then you just check the logs and look, for example, some warning maximum level log entries. Or you can set a interval where you can see where you would like to see the log entries and so on. And now we have done some service instance, some systems. So let's check what our dashboard is show to us. It seems that we have now 2 application systems. One of the system is providing a service, and we can check the services. We have the demo service, and one system is providing this demo service. In order a consumer service will be able to consume a service, of course, you have to settle some intra-cloud authorization rules, where you have to go to the intra-cloud rule page. And as you can see, now we have no any rules in this, any authorization rules in this cloud. So I'm going to create. My consumer will be the demo consumer, my provider will be the demo provider, and the service which is authorization rule will be covered is the demo service, and I will allow to consume it only via HTTP secure JSON connection. So let's create this rule. And now we have it. We can check some details about the consumer system, the provider system, the service definition details. And if we are going back to the dashboard, and now I can see that I have an application system in the local cloud, which is authorized to consume a service. And if I'm curious enough, then I'm going to check which services I have authorization rules for, and I can see that, for example, that the demo service have one consumer authorized to consume and one provider which is providing that service. There is a shortcut buttons if you are would like to see the providers for this demo service. You just hit it, and you will be directed to the services page and filtered by the service definition, and you will see only those systems who are providing that specific demo service. If you would like, you can create orchestration store rules. This management tool is supporting both the fixed orchestration mode and the orchestration store mode and the flexible orchestration store mode. This time my orchestration is started in fixed mode, so I can create fixed orchestration store rules. I can select the consumer, I can select provider, and if the provider would be in another cloud, I can switch to the intercloud version, but now I'm in local cloud.
Sorry again, provider is also the consumer.
Thank you. Yeah. I can select the service, the interface, and I can give other properties, which is very similar to the metadata, but used for other purposes. Oh, sorry, this is the priority. So this rule will be the first priority, and here we have the attributes, which is quite similar to the metadata. And by hitting create, my store rule has been created, and I can see some headline and all the details if I open the detail view. Okay. If there is gatekeeper registered into the local cloud, then the gatekeeper menu point will be visible for you. And here you can create, here you can register neighbor clouds and relays which the clouds can use to communicate with each other. So if I would like to establish an inter-cloud communication, first I will need a relay being registered into the local cloud. So I go with the relay page, and here I can provide the address. Important at this time, port is whatever, and I will register a general relay. I can choose a gatekeeper relay, which is dedicated only to serve the gatekeepers. I can register a relay which is dedicated to serve only the gateways, but now I'm going to register a general purpose relay, for example, in secure mode. And when I have the relay, I can create a neighbor cloud entry. The cloud will be the test cloud that need operator AITIA, and the cloud name is test cloud. And I have to provide the gatekeeper's public key from the neighbor cloud. So I have to select the file. I'm looking for the test cloud, and I already generate some gatekeeper certificates, so I can read the public key information from that certificate here. I already have it. I have to assign a relay for this neighbor cloud. I can create by hitting the other relay, or I can choose an already existing relay, only that I have to know the address of the relay. And of course, I can assign to the neighbor cloud some exclusive gateway relays if I would like to do it, or I can create it if I have an existing one. Okay, so now I have the neighbor cloud registered. I have some information about to check. I can check which gatekeeper relays are assigned to this neighbor cloud, which is the address of it. Of course, I can edit it, and I can assign another relay if it is necessary. But now I'm able to create an intra-cloud authorization rule. For example, I can select my test cloud as a neighbor cloud, and I would like to allow consumers from the test cloud AITIA to consume services from my provider system, which is the demo provider, and I allow only the demo service to being consumed from that neighbor cloud via the HTTP secure JSON interface. And now the inter-cloud authorization rules is settled, so you can execute inter-cloud communication. And I think we have mentioned everything which is really important. Only one thing I would like to show you. Of course, you can add another cloud if you wish. For example, if I start my test cloud, which is another one, which is the neighbor cloud, what we have just settled. For example, I'm going to start only the service registry with my stop script. I mean my start script. Sorry for that. Because the service registry is the entrance point, so we will have to provide a running service registry at least. And I will need my IP address again, because I would like to add another cloud. So the cloud wizard is going to pop up by the service registry address, and this time I am on another port. I have to provide the correct certificate, correct system operator certificate. testing the connection. And now I can see that only the service registry is up and running, and the management tool is showing me that the authorization and orchestrator is offline, and the other core system are not deployed to this in this cloud. This will be the, I leave it as it is to see that we are using the common name. And by finishing, the management tool is trying to connect to the local cloud, but I get an error because there is mandatory core systems which are not online, as you can see. And therefore, I can now see any application details. But if I wish, I can change back to our working local cloud, which is the demo cloud. And now the management tool is trying to connect to them. And now I succeed. And I can see again an overview, which is provided by the dashboard page. And if I wish, I can remove that test cloud. I have to type the common name for security reasons. Do not accidentally remove any cloud from your management tool. But if you provide it in the right way, then it will be removed successfully. And I think that's all what I would like to show you. If there is something I miss, then please, Raymond, tell me. Or if you have any questions regarding the whole toolchain process, then we can discuss now.
Hi, Tamás, it's Gábor from Survival Pro.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes?
Yeah, okay. It was a really nice work. I really like it. Congratulations for that. I'm just would like to ask some general question, not really maybe related to the graphical user interface itself, but for example, can you explain that from the user's perspective, was the real purpose of defining the orchestration and the authorization rules?
The authorization rules is necessary always when you have to connect the consumer to a provider. But if you have no orchestration store rules, then your local cloud will perform a dynamic orchestration. So it will look for the available providers with the defined properties. I mean, for the service with the right version, with the right metadata, and so on. But if you have store rules and you trigger your orchestration request from the consumer that I would like to use the store, then these store rules will be used. And if the first priority, for example, the provider is available, which providing the demo service, and it has the first priority, then this provider will be orchestrated to the consumer.
So it means some kind of static binding,
yes,
between the provider and the consumer.
Exactly.
And also the authorization rule is really necessary to make service consumable, but the orchestration rule is not necessary for that.
Yes, you are correct.
Okay, thank you. And another question: that what's the purpose of the general gatekeeper relay?
The general
gatekeeper relay.
Gatekeeper relay. The purpose of the general gatekeeper relay is that you can establish release which are serving only the gateways. So it means that the gateway is the core system which is establishing the bridge between the two neighbor clouds. And if you would like to secure your resources, that your relay will be able all the established connections via that relay, you can set that relay to the gateway relay type. So when the when the connection is will be established between two clouds, and for the cloud you have for one cloud you have a gateway relay, and that gateway relay is also known by the another cloud. Then that gateway relay will be used for the connection and not another one. So actually, we would like to provide a possibility to use relays serving only the gatekeepers and relays only to serve the gateways, and you can use relays which are able to use both.
Okay. So this one is the general relay.
Yeah, the general is capable to serve both, or the capability is not the right word. So it will be, let's say, orchestrated in a way. So the relays are being orchestrated also. Let's put it this way.
Yeah. Okay. 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 Thank you.
Okay. And as far as I see, Austin.
Yes. So I had a question on, let's say, some other kind of things. I'm very impressed by seeing this, and I'm sure this is extremely helpful, especially for people who have good command of the details of Arrowhead and Arrowhead systems. Very, very useful. My concern is about those that are total amateurs, like students, for example, that have not yet obtained a good command of the details. And one problem with stepwise wizards in general is that you're following it, and in the middle of it, you get a place where you're going to provide some information and you have no idea. So I personally also have to call myself an amateur for some of these details, and I would have been lost somewhere in the middle here, right? Where I would have been sometimes proposed to give some kind of text. I would not know whether that text had any significance, like metadata. You seem to be able to say anything there, and it didn't have any significance at all. Or also some places where you had a small number of alternatives, and I was wondering, okay, what happens if I don't choose the right one? You know, what are the consequences if I don't know what you're talking about, right? So either I can say, what would I have liked? I would have liked something like defaults on everything. I would have liked, or probably also some kind of help file or help possibility, so that I had a chance to find out what to write in such a situation. I would also have liked that there was maybe up front there could be some kind of list of things that I needed to make sure that I knew up front, like where to put things, where what to name things, whatever, when that's actually something I need to choose underway, right? Instead of suddenly having to think about it halfway through a long wizard, that kind of thing. And finally, I think it would be really very nice if there was a walkthrough similar to the one you had now, but in maybe a little bit less time than 1.5 hours, that would tell, how is the simplest way to go through to get a hello world example, right? And then run it. And then after that, not having a system that is not possible to do anything with, but something that you can start modifying with respect to protocols or more systems or more services or whatever it might be, right? That would be useful for people like me that want to use this for students possibly. So that's, well, that was my comment and desire.
Thank you, Ray. Yeah, actually we have another project, which is actually the Hello World, Arrowhead Hello World, which is developed one of my colleague, which is who is not attending here at this time. I'm personally not involved to that project, but it's absolutely what you have described. You have some possibilities to set, and with a few click, with running a few scripts, I guess you will have a Hello World Arrowhead example. I have not so many details about it because I'm not involved, but I can provide the repository where it can be found, and I can connect you with my colleague. And maybe if I'll agree, we can publish it also via our website. I don't know.
Yeah, what I've seen sometimes is sort of, for example, a Docker version or something, which makes it a lot more difficult to manipulate and augment, right? But what I'm seeing from your wizards here is that you seem to have control that you can actually do something with it afterwards. You make it one time and then you augment it and you delete things and you change the protocols and whatever, right? That's the kind of system I like, right? I'd like something that can grow. Also after the first let's say trivial example.
Okay, understand.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment. Okay.
So thank you, Tamás. This is really great. And I think Mario asked about documentation and presentation material. Some of them are on the website already, as far as I remember.
On the GitHub repository, we can publish the PowerPoint presentation about these tools. But
yes,
it's a teaser only, I would say.
And circulate it in this crowd.
Yeah.
So I will also be able to send it out. Any further questions?
As I see, excuse me, Paul, it's recorded. Where the recording will be available?
I don't know yet. Where can I upload? But I will, and I share it with you this week.
Okay, perfect.
And with that, I think I also stop the recording because we're getting informal. But we can keep up the questions.